Now let's look at reading in a character. So there are a lot of cases where we might want to read in a character in a program. Menus are used really commonly in programs, and so a menu might be like A, B, C, or D. So we might ask the user, so we might have a menu, ask the user for A, B, C, D, etc. with that. So we might ask the user yes or no, so we might ask for a yes or a no. So there are a lot of cases where we want to read in a character. The simplest way to read in a character is just with cin. So if we have, let's say we have a character, call this letter. The simplest way to read this in is just cin letter. So just do this. This is what we've already seen. The problem with this is so the problem with cin is that it skips leading white space and we can't input a return. So what if we want to input a blank? So what if we want a blank, or what if we want to read in enter? So we can't input these with cin, so we need a way that we can input those. And the reason why we might want to do, you might be like, well, why do we want an enter? We might want that if let's say we're outputting a lot of text to the user, so where it'll output 2 or 3 lines of text, and then it says press enter to continue, and then it outputs some more text, and then it says press enter to continue. And the reason why it does that is because if it outputs the entire thing, it might scroll all the way to the bottom, and then you can't see the previous text. So sometimes if you're outputting, say, a lot of instructions or text to a user, you might want the program to pause and wait for the user to read it and then hit enter, and then the program will continue outputting data or whatever it's showing the user. Another issue with cin is that the program won't progress past cin until a character other than a space, tab, or enter is pressed. So if you have cin, like let's say we have this code here where we're asking the user for a letter, if the user just hits a space or an enter, the program isn't going to progress past this statement until they enter an actual character. So if we want the user to just be able to hit a space, or say we want to read in a space and store it to our character, or if we want the user to just be able to press enter, then we need a different way to do this. Cin has a built-in object called get. So let's put that. Cin has built-in object called get. And the way that we would use this is, let's say we want to read in this letter. Instead of using this cin letter, we would use cin.get and then put letter here. And the other way we can use this is we can say letter equal to cin.get. Both of these are equivalent. They're both going to store whatever the user inputs to letter. And this can save a space or a new line in this variable. So we'll do this if we want to save a character to the variable letter. If we just want to continue with the code, like let's say we just want the code to pause and say press enter to continue. The way we would do that is just put cin.get. This doesn't save anything to a variable, it just pauses the screen until the user hits enter. So this one just pauses screen until user hits enter. So we can run into a problem if we mix cin.get. So with this program, notice how we have the cin number. So we're reading in, so for this program, we're asking the user for an integer and a character. And so we have cout, enter a number, so the user enters a number. And we have enter a character, and the user enters a character, and we have this cin.get to get the character. So what's going to happen with this, if the user enters 3, so, well, if they enter any number and hit enter, this is what they're going to get for the output. So it's going to say enter a number, and then enter a character, and then it's going to go right to thank you, and not allow the user to enter anything else. So it looks like the code isn't working correctly, because it looks like the code is asking the user for a number, and then it's skipping asking the user for a character. It prints out enter a character, but then it just continues on and says thank you and never allows the user to enter the character. So the reason why this happens is because cin and cin.get read data slightly differently. So if we look at what's in the keyboard buffer, if the user enters a 3, there's going to be a 3 and then a new line in the keyboard buffer. And so the reason why this happens is because the user is going to enter a 3, and then they're going to hit enter. And so the keyboard buffer is going to have the 3, and then it's going to have the new line from the user hitting enter. So this is going to start reading at 3, and it's going to stop when it gets to the new line character. So it's going to start reading at 3, and it's going to stop at the new line. And then cin.get, so then the program is here at the cout, enter a character. So it's going to ask the user enter a character, and then it's going to go to this cin.get, and it's going to start reading right here. So cin.get is going to start reading at this new line, and it's going to read and store that new line and go on, because it found a new line character, and so it stores the new line character to this variable character, and then the code continues and it just says thank you and looks like it skips that part of the code. So the way that you deal with this, if you're mixing cin and cin.get, is you need to use cin.ignore. Does is it skips the new line character. So if we have and we would put the cin.ignore right here, and we're gonna look at some code with this, but we would put the cin.ignore right after the cin number. And so what that's going to do is it's going to ignore the next character in the keyboard buffer. So basically it's going to ignore this new line character, and then it's going to continue reading after that, so it'll allow the user to enter more data. This is the code we were just looking at with the mixing the cin and the cin.get. So let's just go ahead and compile and run this how it is. So I'm going to compile. This is test 2. So now let's run it. So enter a number. Let's just enter 20, and then see how it never asks me for the character, and then it just says thank you. So if we go over here and put the cin.ignore, so I'm going to do cin.ignore. So now enter a number, let's enter 20. Now it's asking me for a character. So anytime that you're using cin with cin.get, just watch out for this sort of error, because this can be a really difficult error to find. If, like, you can see how, like, if we didn't have the cin.ignore in here, like when we ran this and it asked us for the number, but then it never asked for the character, that's kind of a strange error. Like, it looks like it's just kind of skipping some of our code. So this can be a difficult error to find if you're not aware of it. So anytime if you're using cin, so the cin number, and then cin.get, just pay attention to this sort of error.